look up tonight and find the nearest star to our own. Not the sun, the next one. It's called Proxima Centauri, and you've been told it's close, our neighbor. That word, neighbor, is doing a great deal of work. Here's what the word is hiding. Shrink the sun down to the size of a grapefruit and set it in Washington, D.C. On that same scale, the Earth is a grain smaller than a pinhead, about 15 meters away. And Proxima Centauri, the nearest star, the neighbor, is a single cherry sitting on the coast of California. You would cross an entire continent to reach the next grapefruit. In numbers that don't fit in the mouth, 4.24 light years, around 40 trillion kilometers. Light itself, the fastest thing that exists, takes over 4 years to make the crossing. Everything you have ever seen of that star left it before you finished the thought you're having right now. We've walked on the moon, we've landed machines on Mars, and somewhere inside that success, a quiet lie took root, that the stars are simply the next step, a little farther down the same road. They are not on the same road. They are not on the same map. You're picturing a starship crossing that gap in a season, the way the films promise you. Hold that picture. Because over the next few minutes, I'm going to take it away from you, piece by piece. And I want you to notice how much you didn't want to let it go. There's an object leaving us right now, faster than anything human hands have ever launched into the dark. Voyager 1. It has been falling away from Earth since 1977, 49 years, at about 61,000 kilometers an hour, 17 kilometers every second. Nothing we've built has gone farther. On the 18th of November this year, it crosses a line no human object has ever crossed. 1 full light day from Earth. 25.9 billion kilometers, the distance light covers in 24 hours. It took Voyager nearly 50 years to cross what light crosses before lunch. Now point that same spacecraft at Proxima Centauri and ask how long. The answer is roughly 73,000 years. That's not a slip of the tongue. 73,000. Longer than all of recorded history, many times over. To reach the nearest star in our fastest machine. And we are slower than our machines. The fastest any human being has ever traveled was the crew of Apollo 10, coming home from the moon in 1969. 39,897 kilometers an hour. That record has stood unbroken for 57 years. At that speed, Proxima Centauri is about 115,000 years away. So understand what you're actually looking at when you look up. Not a destination, a number so large it stops meaning anything. You won't cross it. Your children won't. Name the furthest descendant you can imagine, they won't either. The machine we are most proud of has covered less than 0.1% of the way to a single neighboring star. And it's the best we have ever done. People assume the problem is engineering, that we simply haven't built the right engine yet. The problem is older than that. It's arithmetic, and arithmetic does not negotiate. A rocket has to carry its own fuel, but that fuel has weight, and to move the weight you need more fuel, and that fuel has weight too. This is the rocket equation, written down by Konstantin Tsiolkovsky in 1897, and it is merciless. The fuel you need doesn't rise gently as you go faster, it climbs like a cliff. Even a modest trip to Mars demands a fuel mass around 146 times the ship itself. To reach a real fraction of light speed on chemical fuel, you'd need more propellant than we could ever assemble. So we imagine better engines. Ion drives real, flown, working, but they push with the force of a few hummingbirds. Marvelous for creeping between planets, useless for crossing to a star. Solar sails, pushed by sunlight, except the sun's push fades with distance, and a sail alone tops out at a fraction of 1% of light speed. Nuclear bombs detonated behind a shield, Project Orion, seriously studied, theoretically able to reach the stars, never built, and even it would take generations. Project Arkov's fighter. Then there's the energy itself. To bring a single kilogram, a bag of sugar, up to just 10% of light speed takes about 4.5 times 10 to the 14th joules. Scale that to a real ship of 100 tons, and you need energy equal to roughly half of all the electricity the human species generates in a year to move one ship, one time, to 1/10 of light speed. And light speed is 10 times faster still. You wanted it to be a matter of trying harder. It isn't. It's a wall, and the wall is made of numbers. Suppose we solved all of it. The engine, the fuel, the energy. Now put a human being inside. This is where it stops being merely hard and becomes almost cruel. Start with your bones. In weightlessness, they dissolve 1 to 2% of your bone density gone every month. In the hips, the spine, the legs. A 6-month stay costs a person about what a postmenopausal woman loses in an entire year. Now stretch that across decades. NASA's own twin study watched Scott Kelly spend a year in orbit while his identical brother stayed home. Thousands of his genes changed how they switched on and off. His arteries thickened. The caps on his chromosomes shifted. Most of it recovered. But a year is not decades. Then the radiation. Beyond Earth's magnetic field, you stand in a sleet of particles thrown off by dead stars. A round trip to Mars, just Mars, is measured at about 1 sievert, which sits right at an astronaut's entire career limit. On a single trip, interstellar space offers no shielding and no end date. And the mind. We've studied what isolation does. Antarctic crews wintering over, the Mars 500 simulation, submarine tours. People who spend 14 months in Antarctic isolation come home with measurably smaller brains. One study found the memory center, the hippocampus, physically shrunken by as much as 1/10. Depression, insomnia, the blank 1,000-yard look they call the Antarctic stare. And those people can still see the sky. They still know Earth is under their feet. Your traveler wouldn't. At Proxima, a single message home takes over 4 years. A question and its answer more than 8. There is no conversation. There is no rescue. There is only a small metal room, and everyone you love turned into a signal that arrives half a decade too late. So answer honestly. Would you go? Would you let your child be born there, into a mission they never agreed to? Step back far enough, and a strange fact comes into focus. We are an extremely young species, pretending to be an ancient one. We've had radio for about 150 years. We've had rockets that can reach orbit for about 70. Out of 300,000 years of human beings, that's the last breath of the last minute. And already we speak of colonizing the galaxy as though it were on a schedule. There's a scale physicists use, the Kardashev scale, that ranks civilizations by the energy they command. A Type 1 civilization controls all the energy of its own planet. We are not there. By the usual measure, we sit around 0.7, not yet able to run our own world, still burning things we dug out of the ground. A civilization that could genuinely cross to the stars would need energy that dwarfs everything we produce by factors we can barely write down. We are not close. We are not almost close. So the confident timelines, the nearest star within a generation, deserve a cold look. The most serious attempt anyone has ever made, Breakthrough Starshot, was announced in 2016 by the billionaire Yuri Milner alongside Stephen Hawking. $100 million and a plan to fire an enormous laser at a gram-sized sail and reach Proxima in 20 years. It has quietly gone dormant. Of the 100 million promised, only about 4.5 million was ever spent. And the hardest problems, surviving the beam, stopping at the far end, calling home across 4 light years, were never solved. Here is the contradiction we live inside. We dream of the stars constantly. We put them in every story we tell about our future. And we cannot leave our own solar system within a single human life. The dream and the distance do not fit in the same room. The universe isn't hostile to you. That would at least be personal. It's something quieter and worse, indifferent, and very, very large. You were born on the one warm rock you will ever stand on. Most people spend their whole lives refusing to believe that. You don't have to be one of them.